Hello, this is Emily Smith, and welcome to In the Roud.
Greetings and salutations, dear listeners. This is In the Roud, a folk song podcast, and I am your host, Matt Quinn. Join me as we travel through the world of traditional folk song, one song per episode in the order they appear in the Roud Index. Each episode normally features two guests, one providing an historical look at the song, while the other will be a singer from the folk music scene to talk about their own version of the song. This podcast is proud to be partly sponsored by the Traditional Song Forum. Meeting regularly both in person and online, the TSF provides a place for a variety of topics related to folk song, song collectors, singers and many other aspects of folk song research to be presented and discussed. It's free to join and most meetings are free to attend. So discover more about the TSF at www.tradsong.org. That's tradsong.org. But let's get going. This week's song is Roud 63, which is child ballad number 99, Johnny Scott. Later on, we'll hear from our singer guest, Emily Smith, but for now, let's have a look at the song's history with returning historical contributor, Sheena Wellington. Well, hello and welcome back to In the Roud, Sheena Wellington. Hello.
Hello, Matt. Good to see you.
Hi, you too. How are you? How's things?
Oh, fine, fine. Busy as usual, but that keeps you going. Keeps you young, I keep telling myself.
keeps me tired.
Well, that's awesome.
Perpetually tired these days, but nevertheless doing more or less okay. It's nice to have you back on the podcast. You were last here from the date of recording last November, so November of 2025, when we had you on the episode on Bonnie Susie Cleland or Lady Masery, which was an excellent one. And you're back now, and in fact you're back for two in a row, two songs in a row, this one and next week's, which are as expected, obviously two Roud numbers in a row, but there are also two child ballads in a row as well, so that's nice. So we're dealing with Roud 63, which is child 99. Johnny Scott, we were just saying before we started recording this that it's not a song I'd really heard of at all, and not a song that you had sort of looked into much, yet we were both surprised to find quite a lot of versions.
A lot of versions in child.
It's not particularly widespread. Oh, actually, I tell a lie. It seems to be more widespread than we expected as well. The Roud Index gives entries, America, Scotland, Canada, Ireland. So it's travelled over the water as well. But yeah, I mean, Child has, what do we say, 16 different versions?
15 versions.
And Bronson, the tunes for the Child Ballads, gives us 12, although that they may be different versions, but they're probably mostly Scots. We'll come to that later on. And so, yeah, this is a much wider song, as it were, than I expected to find.
Yeah, and that's what I found surprising when I started looking at it. It seems to be very much anthologized, but not actually all that much sung. Certainly not in Scotland in these days.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how it's going in England. And that surprises me because, well, as Bronson himself says, it's an agreeable piece of Scottish self-congratulations, and we're usually pretty good at that sort of thing, you know.
Yeah.
Even when we're no winning stuff, we're good at congratulating ourselves for it. And it surprises me particularly because if I nip next door and ask my neighbour if I could go up to a roof garden with my binoculars, I'd almost be able to see Denmill Castle, or the ruins thereof, which is where a lot of people, and Child and various others, believe that the protagonist came from, because he was Sir James McGill, and he was a friend of Sir Robert Balfour. And the pair of them were in Stirling. Robert got into an argument with a Highlander. He was getting the worst of it. So James stepped in and planted the Highlander. But on the way home, made the mistake of saying to Robert, he'd have massacred you if I hadn't stepped in. Robert got angry. They started a fight, and Robert was killed. So James had to trot down to London looking for a pardon from King Charles II. And Charles did give him a pardon, but sent him into exile. There's no actual mention that McGill had to fight anyone. He was just popped off to France or wherever the heck he had connections, and that was it. Where the fight came from, where the pregnant lady came from, is a mystery.
Yes, there's
Uh,
some odd things in this song, aren't there?
some very odd things, particularly I love the description of the Italian. Again, it's in one of Bronson's, which goes, I have Italian in my court, will surely kill lords three, for betwixt his eyebrows are two spans, and his shoulders are ells three, which presumably meant he was a giant.
Presumably so. So
Sorry.
how does this all relate? So what we usually start with, I keep forgetting to do it. Give us a sort of plot summary of Johnny Scott. What are we dealing with?
Well, the plot summary in most of the versions, there is variation, of course,
Sure, yeah.
is that Johnny Scott has got somebody's daughter pregnant. Quite a few versions say it's the king, some say it's Earl Percy, some say it's a noble lord, and he is summoned to answer for his crimes. And he is challenged, he has to fight a duel to fight the fair lady, or to win the fair lady. And it's usually an Italian, a bravado, a bully, or whatever they were called at the time. And he does this and he manages to win. And in most of the versions, the king says, I'll give you my daughter's hand and money. And in most versions, he says, stuff your money, or I don't want your money. I just want my fair lady. I won her fairly, tralala boom dee, which I think is very un-Scottish, actually. We wouldn't usually refuse money, but it's that kind of, he was a noble man for all the fact, but in some cases, the lady comes to him. There are a couple of them where the lady escapes from wherever she's been planted and tries to reach Johnny. So it's actually taken quite a journey from what was an original story. Child thought that it linked with something which had happened in Brittany, that there had been a similar thing. They had to fight an Italian champion, wrestler or whatever it was. But it's not. It's not conclusive. I think it's like a lot of ballads that it has the kernel of truth, but has been plastered over the years with odds and bits and things. I mean, ballad singers are notorious for borrowing verses from other songs, other ballads, because they think it either fattens out the song or makes sense. And I think we've all done the occasional when we're in the middle of singing a ballad and realise that we have no idea what the next line is, that
Yeah.
from somewhere comes a couple of lines from another ballad entirely, which actually fit in quite well. So you just sing them and hope that the rest's all going to come to you. And I think this has happened to Johnny Scott. It's a fascinating one because, again, because I can't understand why it isn't as as well known or well
Yeah,
sung
I
these
think
days.
because from what we can see, I mean, there are some. If you looking through the Roud index for this one, there are entries for about five separate field recordings of this one, although
Yes,
mostly America, or three. Well, I say one in the USA, two in Canada, and two in Ireland. But one of them is Sean Kilcurran, and so I don't know whether that's traditional or not, but we've got certainly other ones. But I wasn't able to track them down, the recordings of them. I think they're
no,
sort of hidden
no,
away.
that's another thing. There are actually very few recordings online
Yes,
of Johnny Scott or in any version.
that's right. I think
Um,
sometimes a song sort of terms of not being sung nowadays on the sort of folk scene, sometimes you can chalk that up to the lack of availability of field recordings because
Field recordings.
people can't hear it. But then
Rec- Yeah,
but then there's plenty of written sources, so you'd think people would have found it.
people would
So
have found that, and the tunes are there, and they could have made something, and they don't seem to have done. Because when I just looking at it, there's only a couple of CD recordings. Susan McEwen
yeah,
sang it on her Sweet Liberty, and the Collective. I'm not familiar with the McMath Collective, and I will now seek them out.
and the McMath Collective features Emily Smith, who will be the guest in the second half of this episode. So there we go. You've linked it well nicely there together with this episode. But yeah, in terms of the folk revival, that's almost it. And then going back, there's a couple of Irish ones, and then. But let's do history stuff. So, how far back can we trace this? Do we have? We don't necessarily have like an original written date in, but do we have? What's our
Well,
earliest reference entry,
we're
as it
looking
were?
at we're looking at Charles II. So, what were the dates of Charles II? I'm going to have to look that up.
I'll do it. I'll do it now. Charles the Second. We're looking Charles the Second, born 1630, died 1685. Was he really?
Yeah,
Oh,
so we're looking at the 17th century, or the events of if the Balfour McGill fight and subsequent troopsing down to London for the pardon is something which sparked the ballad. We're looking at 17th century, and I just wonder what is the earliest written version that we have. Titler has it from Anna Gordon. Um, I'll just,
excellent.
excuse
Yeah,
me, I'll just check Anna Gordon's. That's 18th century, but it's early 18th century. So not that long after. Hmm.
let's check the traditional ballad index.
Yes, I'm just going to have a quick look.
Yes, I've
I
just
should
checked
actually know Anna Gordon's dates, isn't that?
I've just checked the traditional ballad index, and the
Mhm.
earliest date we have is the Mrs. Brown, the Anna Gordon version. That's the
Yeah,
earliest.
which would be late seven,
Uh,
late,
yeah, I think it's
late, late
18th century. Yeah,
18th
they've written it.
century,
They've said
probably.
the 1783 and 1799, that sort of thing. So
Yeah, so it's 18th. So
yes,
and she would probably have had it. She had it from her home,
that's right.
which
Yeah,
was her original home in the northeast, in Gordon actually. So she would. Yeah, so it was obviously on the go, probably in the second half of the 17th century. Yes.
yeah,
I've
that's good.
lost, I've
That
confused myself.
that's all right.
This
That's
is
all
the
right.
21st century, 20th century, 19th. Well, yes, in the 18th century, it would have already been current. So not that, well, desperately long. Now, if that's the earliest version, where was it before, I wonder? And I haven't been able to trace it any further back either. Hmm.
Oh well, that's still pretty good going though.
Sorry about that, but
No, no, that's
uh,
fine. That's absolutely fine.
I
We
have
just
done a fair bit of reading on it since you asked me to do it, because as I say, it wasn't one I was familiar with.
yeah.
And I'm still fascinated as to how we get a punch up between two people that ends up in one of them, unfortunately, dying. I mean, it was actually a duel, I believe. They did have swords and things, and the bravado, whatever he was, the Italian thing. How did the pregnant daughter come into it?
Oh yeah, because
This
some
just
versions don't have that. Some
some
versions without.
versions don't have it, but most of them do, and it ends up with him either saying, "All I need is a priest so I can wed the lady," or "I don't want your money. I just want my bride because I've won her fairly," and all this sort of thing. But it's one of the things about the ballad tradition. There's quite a lot of illegitimate pregnancies wandering about the place.
I guess it's just maybe it's a bit of creative storytelling
I
rather
think
than
it was probably a bit of creative storytelling. It says, I mean, a duel between a Scotsman and an Italian in the court of Charles II wasn't as interesting as all that.
no.
So we'll throw something into it. It wasn't just done because he'd fought his mate and killed him and so on and so forth. It had to be done for a better reason than that. And what better reason than he had disgraced the king's daughter. He had caused huge scandal, because it was more of a scandal in England than it was in Scotland. That was one of the interesting sidelights that came out of this. That Ruth Perry, in her Anna Gordon book,
Oh
wonderful
yeah.
book, um, did make the point that illegitimacy was less of a scandal in Scotland than it was in England.
Oh yeah.
And
We didn't like that sort of thing at all.
sorry?
We didn't like that sort of thing at all in England.
No, no. And it is one of these interesting sidelines which has got nothing to do with anything much. But well into the second half of the 20th century, an illegitimate child in England could never become legitimate, even if his parents married, unless there was an act of parliament, which of course was only ever done if it was the Duke of Hooji Whatsit, who had no legitimate heirs, but had a couple of illegitimate children who would do, one of the boy would do fine, and who actually had an act of parliament to legitimise his son. Whereas in Scotland, an illegitimate child was automatically legitimised by the subsequent marriage of his mother and father. And that was it. And could actually be legitimised by his mother marrying someone else.
Right. Okay.
The,
And I guess we get this the whole pregnancy thing it could just be a motif from other ballads because it the sort of certainly in some of these Scots ballads it probably I think it was in the one that you were on last time, the Bonnie Susie Clennon, the fact that a Scot being married to an English woman or the other way around,
I
the
think it
whole
was the other way around. The
Scots.
child was from an Englishman,
Yeah, so
and they were
The
making.
Scott England divide, as it were,
Yes,
and
yes,
in this one, I mean, he's called Johnny Scott just to hammer it home that he's
yes,
Scottish, and I think in most versions that it's the king's daughter that he gets with the English
yes,
king's daughter that he gets
yes.
with child, and so maybe that's in there to just to do a bit of reinforcement
Oh, no, 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 no.
In the England Scotland divide,
Yes, it possibly is. It very possibly is, because it doesn't. It just seems to appear there, and there doesn't seem to be any record of the king's daughter becoming pregnant by, well, anyone out of wedlock. Never
No.
mind a sort of minor Scottish laird from Fife. It just
Yeah,
doesn't fit in terribly well.
no.
But it is, for all that, a very interesting ballad. Um, the variations are interesting. There's a lovely one on YouTube, and I should have written down the gentleman's name and I didn't, which does the full 12 and a half minutes. And it's
Okay, I'm gonna look 12 and a half minutes
the
blindly.
plague, I mean, I, I think that's one of the things, maybe one of the reasons why it's not very often sung, because it is a long ballad and it's actually quite difficult to cut without cutting out the essential bits. I mean, Bell Stewart, I may have mentioned that before, always used to say, if you can't sing the ballad in 8 verses, it's no worth doing, if you can't get the story in.
Yeah,
But there are some stories which actually require the full
yeah,
story, and I think Long Johnny Scott, at its best, in its best versions, actually needs to have the singer singing all the verses.
yeah. Oh, there we go. Yes, I did wonder if it was him. As a very tenacious man, I think from Australia, called Raymond Crook, who
That's the
is
man.
who basically does a lot of videos of himself with the guitar singing folk
Yes.
songs, but any songs he wants, and he's just very prolific sort of repertoire, and he
Uh-huh.
has done all of the child ballads, and it is him who's done the full 12-minute Johnny Scott. But yeah, because they are quite long. Yeah, I was just looking at the number of verses. Version A in child, we've got 34. I think that's the longest. Version A in child tends to be the most complete
Yes.
one. And then scanning through, because there's 16. Version B, we have 28 verses. Version C, we got 29. Version D, we got 28 again. Version E, we have 25. So they're mostly around that area. Version F, we have
Uh-huh.
22. Version G, we have 23. Version
Yeah.
H, we have 30 verses again. Version I,
Mhm.
24. Version J, we have 11. And in this second half, we're getting some shorter ones now: 11 verses, 12 verses, 16 verses,
Yeah.
19, 12. Version N has 33. That's quite a long one to be at the end of
Mhm.
child's versions. And right down to version P, which has 4 verses.
Yeah, Bronson has one with 45 verses, but I don't have all of them printed out. So I'm
Wow.
only up to 19 on this one. And
Oh,
we haven't got to the fight yet.
let's have a look. I've got a PDF copy of Bronson open. Let me see if I can find that 45 verse one.
I think
There
it's
it is.
40.
There it is. It's version 8 from
Yeah.
the Motherwell manuscript, 1827, from Andrew Blakey of Paisley.
Oh,
Oh, it does say the text is a conflation by Motherwell of 3 copies collected by him, which are
oh,
now
that's very Motherwell, isn't it? I mean, he
which
was.
are now, so those 3 versions that Motherwell conflated into that 45 verse one in Bronson. Those 3 versions are C, D, and E in child.
Ah,
So that
well, he's
45 verse version is a mixture of verses from
of
version
all
C,
of
D, and
these.
E of
Yes,
child. So it's not
yes.
actually so it's not really an authentic long version.
Hmm. It's interesting that he has it from Andrew Blakey because that means we will have that. I wish I'd noted that, and I didn't note it because I could have actually gone and got the tune out of the Blakey manuscript because we have the Blakey
Okay.
manuscript in the Wellington collection,
Oh, there we
and
go.
I could have had a look at it and seen what Whiten had to say about it because he always commented that, although he
Uh,
didn't have it from Blakey, of course. But anyway, that's
but y-
something for me to research.
yes, but yes, a long version within that is a mixture of 3 versions, which are now child C, D, and E. So that's
Yeah, that would be a long sing that, but
yes, it would.
Raymond Crook does it very well actually. He's got a nice enough voice, and
Yeah,
it's interesting to have it.
absolutely.
But I really will have to look up Emily's. Oh,
It's an interesting
I,
experiment to do to perform a complete version of some of these long ballads. As we will be doing on the podcast later this season. This is a tease for anyone who's really interested in this sort of thing. The final episode of this season of the podcast is a ballad where there is one version of it and it lasts 456 verses.
oh,
And
crumb.
so I have a plan as to how to get someone to sing it. It involves multiple people, but we'll leave it there, and we'll come back to that in about 8 weeks' time, 7 weeks.
Well, it's something to look forward to,
So
I
to look
think.
forward to for 456 verses. I'll
466
I'll give
verses.
listeners a hint. It involves Robin Hood.
That Why is that not a surprise?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh
Not a
dear.
surprise at all. Bloody Robin Hood.
Actually, the Robin Hood ballads used to be very popular in Scotland, but they don't seem to have. They're
No, they're a bit out of
don't seem
fashion
to have
now.
lasted. They're out of fashion all over the
They're a
world, which
bit.
is a shame because they're interesting.
There are some good bits dotted around. I find them a little bit boring myself,
Yeah,
but I'll cover them when we get to them. So, uh,
yeah.
is there anything else you wanted to talk about, or we've done about almost half an hour already, so we could move on to the to me or I don't know, you as well, talking about some of the different melodies, the tunes, or unless there's anything else you want to talk about in terms of
No,
text or whatever.
the tunes that I have found. I mean, my sight reading is not very great, but they're all modal, of course. And there seems to be a similarity. There seems to be a consistency almost in the tunes. There's variations, but they're not, there seem to be variations around this theme. This may be because I have only managed to find three versions to listen to,
Right.
which is my usual guideline. Um, and I wonder if that's the reason that it hasn't really survived in the wild, because people didn't like the tune. I mean, I thought I think the tunes that uh, Raymond Crooks and Sean Corker and Mary Balin, of course, from whom we got it, sing, are perfectly nice tunes.
Yeah.
But they,
Indeed. I mean, because there's 12 in Bronson, although they're not split into subgroups, which
yeah,
implies that at least Bronson thought they were all quite similar to each other,
yeah,
rather because there's no subgroups.
yes,
But if we look through them, not all 12 of them, but the first one, which was sung by Edward Holt of New Brunswick, Canada, in September of 1928. So it's Canadian, except as you pointed out before we started this recording, a lot of the Bronson stuff, the tunes, even though they're mostly from America, they do seem to have come from over this way again, because this one is a prime example. It's a version sung in Canada in 1928 by a man, Edward Holt, and it says derived from his great grandfather, a Scotsman. And
mm,
so it's really a Scots version. But nevertheless,
yes.
for this one, I'll try and do some sight singing here. I had a brief scan through these earlier. Oh, Johnny Scott is a hunting gone through the English woods so fair. The fairest lady in the king's court, she goes with child by him. She goes with child by him. Or there's a repeat. I'm not sure how that works, but you get the idea. That's
Mhm.
there's some extra. Sometimes the way Bronson writes things out confuse me a bit, but yeah. But for the most part, that's quite a nice melody.
That's
Dum de dum de dum de dum de dum da da de da 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 nia da dia da nia da dum da niam da da dia da da da. And it
mhm.
ends on the. It
And a
depends.
little bit at
It
the end, which you feel with that one is being put on for decoration. You know,
yes.
it's been just because but it is a nice tune, but they all sound like slight variations of each other. The three that I've
Indeed.
heard, and I think that I think that happens. Obviously, it happens when um, I've heard I've been at sing-arounds and people have sung a song, a ballad that I know, a ballad that I've sung, maybe even one that I've recorded, and you think, oh, that's a nice tune. You know, that's I've never heard that little twirly bit or that phrase going, and you say, I love your tune. Who did you get that from? And they say, I got it from you. And you think, oh,
Yeah,
hmm,
very good, very good.
hmm,
And the second tune in Bronson is in the Sharp manuscript. It's in Sharp and Carpelly's book from 1932, the collecting in the Appalachians. But it was sung by Mrs. Jane Gentry of Hot Springs, North Carolina, in August of 1916. We've got 6/8 jig time. Here we go. When Johnny Scott saw this broad letter, it caused him for to smile. But the very first line that he did read, the tears run down for a while. But the very first letter that he did read, the tears run down for a while. That they all seem to end. I mean, there's two so far, but they seem to. None of them sort of resolve, land on the
Yeah,
home note. They all.
they're yeah, that's interesting.
That's quite a nice one. Let's just skip ahead to almost randomly pick some. Let's see if I can do. Let's pick one. Well, here's the tune that was that 45 verse one that we've realised actually 3 versions put together. Motherwell 1827, Andrew Blakey. Oh, Johnny Scott's to the hunting gain, unto the woods so wild. Earl Percy's a daughter. I'm getting this really wrong. To him goes big with child. You get the idea anyway. That wasn't very good, but you get the idea. It ends with that unresolved thing. But that first line really reminded me of bum 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 ba da 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 da. That tune that gets used for so many. It came on the podcast because we covered Earl Richard, I think, or Young Hunting. Young Richard was a hunting gone. Dun da 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 da. It's got bits there, that are similar to that. I didn't do a very good job with that one. I apologize. Another one. Let's have a look. Number 9. Ballads "Migrant in New England" by Helen Hartness Flanders, sung by Jonathan Moses from North Hampshire, 1942. Young Johnny wrote a broad letter and sealed it with his hand. He sent it to his own true love, in spite of old England. Yeah, so we're seeing a theme here, a kind of a similarity, aren't we, between these?
Mm-hmm.
And
Which is fine, that's how songs develop or passed on. People have they change a little bit here, a little bit there.
indeed,
They may actually harmonise and take the harmony that they've done for the tune, and but it's a fascinating ballad. I really thank you for asking me to have a look at it, because
my pleasure.
it wasn't one I was greatly familiar. I knew it existed, but I didn't have much interest in it. I'm not sure that I'll actually sing it myself, because learning songs is, when you get to my time of life, is no as easy as once it was. But it is nice, and I really must have a look at the McMath Collective.
Oh yes.
I'll get in touch with Emily and say, "Oi, Mrs. Where is it?" If it's on Bandcamp, that's easy.
Yeah,
But
we'll see.
I still prefer to have the CD. You know that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Bandcamp is so easy, but I actually like to have the CD, and I like to have the notes, and I like to have all that.
Yeah. I'll just flag one more version up because this version is not in Child. This I had on my shelf a copy of the rather big and heavy book, Sam Henry's Songs of the People, edited, transcribed, and annotated by Gail Huntington, with a lot of help from John Malden, who's done stuff for the podcast before. And there's a version here, Johnny Scott, and it's written in the great work of Professor Childs. 16 variants of it are found, but this Ulster version is not recorded elsewhere than here. So there we go. From the singing of Alexander Crawford, January the 1st, 1938. And we've got 14 verses. No pregnancy. We've just got Johnny Scott's To the Hunting Gain, to the English woods so wild, and the King of England's daughter made a tryst to be his bride. So
Hmm.
they want to be married, but there's no child. And we've got a melody as well, which does resolve, but it could easily not resolve. I think maybe someone's just decided to end it on the home note, but we've
To make it neat, yeah.
yeah, but we've got okay. Johnny Scott's to the hunting gain, to the English woods so wild, and the King of England's daughter made a tryst to be his bride. So that could easily
I
be
quite like
made
that.
it could easily be made a tryst to be his bride.
Yes, it could
Because
have,
and
but
that's kind of what you expect with that melody.
well, yeah.
But it ends up with made a tryst to be his bride. Da
Mm.
da 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 dum. But it's a bit of a different melody, but it more or less follows some of the. If you try and draw the melody in a line, it kind of the second line goes up a bit, and the next line
Yeah.
goes down a bit, and it ends on the thing. Um,
Mm.
we've got the
But
Italian.
that's really interesting. Is
Yeah.
that book still in print?
I don't I don't know. Possibly. I mean, I was very honoured to receive a spare copy that Steve Roud had on his shelves. That's very nice of him. But
Oh,
but I'll have a look and see if it's still in print because
yeah.
it's a
Because that's
really
a
important book.
fascinating one, yeah.
But yeah, we've got the Italian in there as well. We have an Italian in the next room. This day has killed three, and before tomorrow at 12 o'clock, your butcher he will be. The Italian came out of the room, a grimly giant he. Actually, it just
Mm-hmm.
states he's a giant.
Hmm.
Yards three between his shoulders, spans four from E to E. E apostrophe E, I. Yards three between his shoulders and four spans between his eyes.
Mm.
They fought about,
It
they
must have
fought
had
all,
problems focusing.
maybe. They fought about, they fought all round with swords of tempered steel, but on the point of Johnny's sword, the death thrust he did feel. And then it ends with, come down, my lady, he says, come down to me. This night you shall be in my arms, and tomorrow my bride you will be. Which I think that's not standard. I think that ending,
Yes, that's really interesting.
but yeah, there's full 14 verses there with a tune collected in Ulster. So
Hmm.
there we go, and that's not in Child, but it's
You know, there
but it
must be lots of ballad versions that were never collected by anyone because nobody knocked on the door and said, "Do you know any ballads?"
yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it's
Hmm.
yes, I don't really know. We only all we can go on is the evidence we have, and it's
Yeah.
never comprehensive. Um, you know, and just because we don't know something doesn't mean it didn't exist. Steve Roud's been drilling this into my head, and so did Vic Gammon for an episode we did on the Patreon recently.
Oh,
What's the phrase? Um, Absence of evidence does not mean is not the same as evidence of absence. Just
yes.
because there's no evidence of it
There's
being
no
sung
evidence. Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
prove that it wasn't sung. And so,
No,
yeah. Anyway,
no.
that's that.
Yeah. I had a version of Lord Randall from my father's aunt that has a bit in it that isn't in any other Lord Randall that I've ever heard.
Oh wow,
Just goes to show you.
there you go. Right, and also, yeah, normally we do some recommended listening for this in terms of traditional recordings, but of course there are I say almost none because there's a couple,
Yeah.
not easily findable. I've just lost the page. I'm just going back to the page that I had the list
I
on.
think I've got it somewhere.
So in the Roud Index, there are 5 entries for traditional recordings. I think I can get my hands on one of them because Steve Roud is a completist, so I'm pretty sure he's got the album. But we've got certainly in existence somewhere is a guy called Ned Mackay from Nova Scotia singing Johnny Scott with the opening line, Lord Johnny Scott went to the greenwood side a hunting there a while. And that's a 1957 recording by Helen Crichton. And I think it's in the Helen Crichton collection on the Nova Scotia Archives, but I'm not sure if we can get access to that. There's an American one, North Carolina, from the scene of Maud Long. Her name's come up on the podcast occasionally. She's got a good repertoire. And that's Johnny Scott. And I think that recording's in the Library of Congress. And there's an external link that doesn't go to a page anymore. So we can't find that one either. But Nova Scotia, North Carolina. We've got a second Nova Scotia one, which is also in the Helen Crichton collection. A singer, Mrs. H. Power. Lord Johnny Scott to the Greenwood Side is the first line. And 1954. And that's in the Helen Crichton collection as well. Not sure if we can get our hands on that. We've got Sean Cochrane in County Louth. But that's, he was a collector, and I think he sang it, and so it was collected. But he got it from Mary Balin, and the other final entry we have for sound recordings in the Roud Index is Mary Balin, collected by Tom Mullany, I think. And it's in the Hugh Shields collection, but it is on a very important CD, or maybe it was a cassette. It was a very important, cassette that was then reissued on CD called Early Ballads in Ireland, 1968 to 1985. It was a double cassette released by the Folk Music Society of Ireland in 1985, and then there's a 2015 CD reissue of it, and that's quite hard to come by, that release, the CD or the cassette. There are no copies available on Discogs. I'm quite good at looking through Discogs these days for secondhand stuff, and it's not there. But I wonder if the good Lord Steve Roud has a copy of it. I'll see what I can do, and I'll send some feelers.
Surprised if he didn't.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll send some feelers out because, towards the end of cassette and CD 1 is Mary Balin singing Johnny Scott. Recorded by Sean Cochrane. So there we go. That's obviously where he, as you said, that's where he got it from. And that's a 1971 recording. So we know that the Mary Balin recording exists, and we know where it is. Just have to find a copy of it, which I will attempt to do. So
Sean's recording is on YouTube.
It is, yeah.
So you can have a listen to it, even if you can't get your hands on it.
And it did get released on an LP called Sailing into Walpole's Marsh, which I do have a copy of.
Great.
So I might even play Sean Cochrane just for the sake of playing a recording of someone who got it from the other recording we've got, but we'll see how it goes. And I'll track that down. And I think we'll leave things there. Thanks again for coming on for this one.
Well, thank you, Matthew.
And we'll see you next week, in fact.
See you next week. Take care.
A huge thanks to Sheena Wellington for providing us with the history of Johnny Scott. Just one traditional recording for you this week, the Irish singer Mary Balin.
Johnny Scott's a hunting went to the wildest hills and woods, to the fairest young lady in all England. Young Johnny had a child. King Edward, he wrote him a broad letter, signed it with his hand, saying, give you this to Johnny Scott as soon as he does land. When Johnny got the broad letter, his eyes filled up with tears, saying, must I go back to fair England? I fear I will never return. Out bespoke his old age father from the chamber where he lay, saying, 1,000 guards I'll send with you to keep you in company.
And I'll put a link to where you can find that recording in the show notes. I just want to take a minute or two now and tell you about our Patreon. In the Roud is on Patreon. If you feel you can support the podcast for a small financial level, then please do consider signing up. Patreon is where we cover more songs from anywhere in the Roud Index, as opposed to the main podcast's numerical order. Recently, we've had our 10th Singer's Choice mini-season. This is where one singer guest comes on for 3 episodes, and we dive into 3 songs of their own choosing. We're about to dive into our next and 11th Singer's Choice mini-season, this time featuring singer guest Emily Portman. Emily was on the main podcast back in Season 2 for our episode on Round 14, The Demon Lover. So I'm very pleased to have her back for 3 more songs. If you want to hear these episodes, plus gain access to the entire back catalogue of bonus episodes, then please do head on over to patreon.com/intheroud, and you can sign up for either £5 or £10 per month and receive regular bonus content. That's patreon.com/intheroud. On to the second half of this episode, though. To chat more about Johnny Scott and other things besides, I was joined by singer Emily Smith. Well, hello and welcome to In the Roud, Emily Smith. Hello.
Hello, thank you.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, yeah.
Good, glad to hear it. And yeah, nice to meet you. This is one of these moments when I'm interviewing someone I've only just met on the podcast. It's an odd feeling because it's, meeting people on Zoom is strange, but
Yeah.
that's what has to happen occasionally.
But yeah, it's good to see you. Good to see you. So.
Yeah, you too. And yes, and also because you are one of the only people. There's a small, there's not quite a handful, but there's, when it comes to certain songs that I'm going through with this podcast, because it's in Roud number order, there are going to be songs that I come to where it's quite difficult to find someone who's sung it on the sort of folk revival. And so it's nice to, I knew that you were sung it, but I didn't know you. We'd never met before, and it was one of those moments where I just had to go on Facebook and sort of put a call to arms out and said, "Does anyone know this Emily Smith person? Can they get in touch with me?" And wonderful James Fagan said, "Yes,
Yeah.
she's married to one of my old duo partners." Right? Okay, there we go. Thank you.
There we go. There's always in the folk music world small enough that somebody knows somebody, don't they? So
yeah, it's either you know them or you work with them, or
yeah.
you know someone who knows them, or you know someone who's worked with them. And so, yeah, James Fagan managed to put us in touch, which was excellent. Much appreciated, James. So yeah, this is a song I'd really not heard of at all until doing that history segment with Sheena earlier. Before we get into the song itself, give us a bit of Emily Smith history and a bit of your sort of background with folk music and how you came to it.
Sure. So I am from southwest Scotland, Dumfries and Galloway. I grew up here. My parents weren't in the folk music scene, although when we would be traveling around in the car, we always had sort of folky tapes playing in the cassette player. Big fans of Scottish culture. My mum was a dance teacher, which was a lot of different styles of dance, but that did include Highland dancing. I did country dancing growing up. I did Irish dancing. So I had a lot of traditional music in the house, but most of the time I would be dancing to it rather than playing it. And then when I was in early teens, I took up the accordion. So the accordion, we'd call it box and fiddle scene down here. That was quite a strong part of our local culture, box and fiddle clubs. So I was taught accordion by a fantastic teacher called Keith Dixon, still teaching locally. And that was kind of my first inlet into playing traditional music. So lots of tunes. We had a ceilidh band at school, which was actually run by our physics teacher, who was a folkie, and who would spend all of his summers across in Ireland, going around all the Irish summer schools, and it was just brilliant. He took myself and a friend along with his family one summer, and we just had an absolute ball. So a lot of the sessions that you would find in this part of Scotland would be playing Irish tunes, because we had such a close link across with Northern Ireland, and as I say, people coming and going. And then alongside that, we had a lot of Scottish tunes in our box and fiddle tradition. So that was my kind of into traditional music. In terms of traditional song, again, I when I started to play in the Keeley band or became interested in traditional music, I was listening to a lot of Irish bands. Dervish was a huge um, influence for me, Kathy George, and she was one of the first traditional singers that I saw live at a little festival, a little theatre over in a place called Castle Douglas, where we used to get bands touring as they made their way, across to Ireland and over to Scotland and down to England. Um, so I love traditional music. I thought this is definitely for me. And then on leaving school, I went to the RCS. It was called the Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama. It's now called the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, to join the Scottish music degree. So it was a very new degree. I think my year was maybe only the third or fourth intake. And I auditioned there as a first study accordion player, and I think I was even maybe going to do piano as my second study. But in my late teens, I had started to sing a little bit with the Ceilidh band and also with what we would call an accordion orchestra. Sounds very formal, but run by my accordion teacher. It became like a big band with lots of accordions, but we had a fiddle player, a piper, a drummer, a singer. And I, for some reason, still no idea why he chose me, but he said, Emily, you be the singer. And so that was when I was kind of pushed to the front to start to sing in my late teens. And up till that point, nobody had paid any attention to my singing voice. I don't remember anyway. So that's how I came to singing. But when I went to Glasgow and started the Scottish music degree, it just really opened up a whole world of music to me, that we had this wealth of tradition in Scotland. And I just absolutely loved it. Met a whole lot of young people who were also into trad music, which I hadn't had growing up really here. There were very many of us that were into folk music, traditional music. And and all of a sudden I decided that Scots song was the direction I wanted to go in on that course. So I switched my principal study to Scots song, and accordion took a bit of a back seat. And then studied there for 4 years, met lots of great musicians, had some brilliant times. And towards my end of my course, I entered the BBC Radio Scotland Young Traditional Musician of the Year award, which was quite a new competition. I think it was the second year. Gillian Frame won it the very first year. I won it the second year. So next year is the 25th anniversary of winning that award, which is a really scary thought. So it's kind of an anniversary year in 2027. And so I won that award. And from there, it kind of gave me the motivation to form a band, to start gigging, go around folk clubs and all that. And it just became a career out of that. So that's kind of my whistle-stop tour of how I got into traditional music.
Lovely. Nice. And so in terms of this song, Johnny Scott, was this because you singing this appears on a CD, the Macmath, the Silent Page, the Macmath Collective. Were you aware of this song before that project, or was this something that turned up because of that?
Yeah, no, I hadn't come across this one. Obviously, there were a few ballads in the Macmath collection that I did know of, and which was lovely. Do you want me to talk a bit more about the William Macmath collection?
Yeah. So yes, since the song didn't turn up for you until the project, give us a bit of chat about the Macmath Collective.
Sure. So William Macmath grew up in Galloway, which is a bit sort of further west in the region to where I grew up. But he came from a little area called the Glenkens, and he lived at a beautiful place called Air de Kells. And so he was born in 1848, died in 1922, and he had an interest in traditional songs with his sisters. I think he had 4 sisters. He started collecting songs, folk songs, and he saw an advert placed in a newspaper by Francis Child in 1873 calling for anyone in Scotland who would help assist collecting traditional songs and the history behind them. So William Macmath answered that call, and he had a 30-year correspondence with Child, going back and forth, letters, writing to each other, and he submitted a lot of the songs that were included in Child's collection. So the exciting thing is that a lot of the songs that they collected in the Glenkens area were kind of rare versions of maybe more commonly known ballads. So so some of those songs were used, and then it was in about 2013, a local songwriter, choir leader, Ali Burns, was at a place in Kirkcudbright called Broughton House. And in Broughton House, a lot of those letters were found, as well as I think it's two unpublished books of William McMath um, of the songs. So it was an absolute beautiful resource to find. And Ali really thought the album is called The Silent Page because we wanted to sing these songs back to life. So myself, Robin Stapleton, Claire Mann and Aaron Jones, Jamie McLennan and Wendy Stewart, we were brought together as a group to look at the collections and bring the songs back to life. So also Alison McMorland and Geordie McIntyre, who are just absolute experts on traditional song, also looked at the collection and they could highlight and pinpoint the ones that were rare versions, ones that had never been seen before. So it was a really exciting project to be part of. So Johnny Scott was one of the ballads that we kind of divvied them up. And on the album, I think I sang three ballads. I sang Johnny Scott, a version of The Queen of the Fairies, and a version of Hindhorn. So pretty epic stories, but it's not very often that you get asked to take these big ballads and get to perform and get them to the record, a multitude of ballads. So I loved the project. And we did a little tour in Dumfries and Galloway. We played at Celtic Connections and we made the album. So Johnny Scott ended up to be one of the songs I was given. I didn't know it previously. And it was, as many of the songs were in McMath's collection, it was a bit of a broken version. So there were a few lines where you just have little stars because the singer or the reciter they couldn't remember that line, or it was maybe intelligible. So the version that McMath had in here came from a lady called Jane Hannay, who was a nursemaid at Aird's O'Kells where he lived, and she had taught it to McMath's aunt, who was called Miss Jane Webster, and that's how it came to be in their family. When you actually look in Bronson, it says collected by Miss M. McMath, which I take would have been one of his sisters. So it was with the sisters' help that they were going around the local area and talking to people, recording or taking down these songs. So that's where the version that I sing comes from, although, as I say, it was a broken version. So kind of to set the scene, now this was like over a decade ago, I can't exactly remember how we did it, but I dare say we pieced together some verses from the other versions that are available. So that's how that came together. But I think the version that we put together does scan well as a story. It kind of tells us, I know there are lots of different ways that the story can go, but the basis of this one is that, Johnny Scott falls in love with the king's daughter, Jeannie, and it's King Edward, which is interesting. I know that Sheena had referred to a different king, I think, in her.
There was another one, wasn't there?
I think she had said King Charles, maybe. So that was interesting. That sort of piqued my interest.
Yeah, I think sometimes the ballad doesn't actually specify the name of the king, but I think Sheena managed to sort of attempt to line it up with
place it,
with some genuine kings,
Yeah. So that's interesting, and also when I was listening to what Sheena had said about the Italian, the gladiator,
yeah,
it's really good because when we recorded it, and I don't actually know why, because it's if you look at the other versions in Bronson, it clearly says in Italian, but in the McMath version, it says there is a taliant in my court.
Oh,
and that's what we ended up recording. And I can vividly remember Ali and I saying, Taliant, do you know that word? Couldn't get, we looked it up. No, it must be some old forgotten word. But obviously it was a misinterpretation of somewhere along the line, Italian had turned into Taliant. So now that has answered a question for me.
There you go. I've just typed the word Taliant into Google just to see what comes up. But unfortunately, there's a virtual AI hiring partner called Taliant, so we can ignore that completely because
it's not that.
Down with AI, and it's clearly not that anyway.
Yeah.
But an Italian.
So that's quite funny. That for years I've been saying there's a taliant in my court, and It was an Italian gladiator all along. So yeah.
Yeah, I wonder. Yeah, I mean, Italian or I don't know, Italian. I'm trying to wonder what else it could have been.
Mm,
Some kind of mishearing of some.
hmm.
It doesn't. It's probably too far away from the word deviant, but that kind of
Aye.
what kind of thing that word implies.
Yeah,
He is a
yeah,
he is a deviant. He is a taliant. I've no
yeah.
idea. I have no idea if that's true or not, but
I think I
it,
know.
it
And
could be
sadly,
that sort of thing.
I don't have my note. I've actually moved house twice since this project happened, so I no
Oh,
longer have the notes I was given to look at the page that I had to see because it was meticulously written with Math himself had beautiful handwriting, because I think he was a lawyer's clerk, but some of the handwriting in the book is not his, and so some of it was very quite hard to decipher. But anyway, there you go. That was a mystery solved that it should have been an Italian, but we've got a Taliant.
yes, but even so, I mean, why is he Italian?
Yeah,
Once we figured out what it actually is, it's like, well, why? Why is he an
yeah,
Italian? Where? I mean, I say, where's he come from? Italy, presumably,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but
How
where
did he
is
get
he?
there? Yeah, what's
And
he
s-
doing there?
and some people do refer to. I don't think it's. Is it actually in one of the versions where I can't be because I was trying to think whether the word gladiator turns up because I see in occasionally
Hmm.
when people I think have referred to this song they talk about the gladiator. So I wonder if they just assume because he's a huge Italian man that he must be a gladiator.
That must be a Taliant.
He
Yeah,
must be someone who fights in the Colosseum opposite
yeah.
Russell Crowe. So yeah, I don't really know, but a huge guy anyway.
He was
Normally
a big
with
guy, and the verse where he's mentioned in my version is there is a Taliant in my court. This day he's killed three, and by the morn at 10 o'clock he'll kill thy men and thee. So it was a real and that's the king that says that. So he's obviously the king's muscle. So everybody's to be scared of the
well,
Italian.
maybe he's hired some foreign muscle.
I think
That that
that's what's going on.
that's
Yeah.
probably what it is, isn't it? Yeah. So do we get any description of him as in because there are some versions where his the what is it the
About how broad he was and stuff.
yeah and like
Yeah,
the three spans between his eyes or something.
yeah. No, that's the only mention of him. That's just that the king says that and up and spoke the king himself, an angry man was he, the fairest flower in all my court. She gans be child to thee, and then he just says, there is a Taliant in my court. This day he's killed three. By the morn at 10 o'clock, he'll kill thy men and thee. So that's the only mention of him. But Johnny does, he kills him. Um, Goes further down. He says, but Johnny was a valiant man, weel taught in war was he, and on the point of his broadsword, the Taliant stickit he.
Hurrah!
That was the end of the
That's
Italian.
That was quite quick, isn't it, as well? He just,
Yeah, quite swift.
over in one verse. I'm
Yeah,
sure if this was a TV miniseries, there'd be half an episode on the fight.
on the fight. Yeah, it's just one sweeping little stanza. There you
This was
go.
if this was a Game of Thrones show, it would be extended considerably, I'm sure. But yeah, and then it's yeah, King Edward. I have nothing to say really about the kings. It's not my area, but
No.
yeah, some of the thing is, I'm just going by the words. There are three sets of lyrics for this on Main in Norfolk, two of
Hmm.
which are the same Irish version, basically, and
Hmm.
then your one. So I really should have opened up Child again, just to have a look, but it's other side of the room. Um, and this is a thing I find really, I'm finding more and more irritating the more and more I do this podcast, is the fact that names crop up in different songs, the same names like William and Margaret and all this stuff.
Mm.
And in this
Hmm.
one, the it is yeah, because it's the king's daughter that Johnny
Yeah.
Scott's with, and she's Jeannie. Yet there's a completely different song that we covered in the podcast 2 seasons ago called "The King's Daughter, Lady Jean," and it
Hmm.
just irritates me that the names are all mixed up a bit. And I don't know.
I
Yeah,
know. Well, I guess that's just we'll never know, will we? We'll never ever know.
yeah. I guess it's just storytelling. I guess that they need a name,
Yeah.
so they just use that one again.
Yeah. I'm just looking at another version here.
Oh yeah.
Um, that was collected in Milltown, New Brunswick, and that it was an Italian dog,
And
which is interesting.
okay, maybe dog is used in a derogatory term here rather than it being
And
a
Italian,
hound.
or it's spelled Italian as in Eyetalian, an Italian dog where he, between his eyes, he measured spans, his shoulders, L's three, and young Johnny, being witty like a swallow-headed fly, and upon the point of his broadsword, the Italian dog did die. So there
Wow,
you go.
there we go indeed.
Oh, we just don't know.
Oh, that's yeah. So the versions in Child for this are phenomenally long. I mean, we're over 30 verses for some of these,
Wow. Okay.
which is fun.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yes, version. There's that first version in Child from the Jameson Brown collection. Oh, that must be Anna Gordon, Mrs. Brown of Falkland. Uh, out it came the Italian, and a curious, as in the word curious, but with a G. Curious
Uh-huh.
ghost was he. Upon the point of Johnny's sword, this time he did die.
Yeah. Yeah, some have great detail about the fight, but basically it all ends on the point of the sword, I think.
Yeah.
Most of them seem to go that way. So,
Ah, version B in Child, the Glen Riddle manuscript, has a verse about the battle, about the fight, or
hmm
just extends it a bit. The first wound that Johnny gave the champion was a deep wound and sore. The next wound that he gave the champion, he never speak. I'll say mare and sare rhyme, if
hmm
but not with my voice. It doesn't. And a priest to priest. Basically, I'd noticed in your version there was the this bit about my stockings are of the heavy iron. I feel them very cold. My breastplates of the beaten steel instead of beaten gold. And yeah, people never talk about wearing armor. Must be rather. I mean, obviously they're wearing things under the
mm
armor, but nevertheless they're wearing heavy metal
mm
and cold
hmm
metal.
Yeah,
Never gets mentioned much. The fact that it must be really cold and heavy, that
I
stuff.
know. I mean, it's a nice bit of detail, isn't it? And the folk were hardy, really hardy.
Yeah, and beaten steel instead of beaten gold, is that? I mean, that could be just
Feeling very cold.
is gold. I imagine gold is not as good against a sword than steel is. I don't know.
Yeah,
My knowledge of
yeah.
armor isn't very good,
No, me
and,
neither.
and metals.
Yeah, there
Oh,
must be some significance in it, but
yeah. Oh, there we go. That the Taliant is also in the Motherwell manuscript.
okay,
Word and tune from Mrs. McNichol of Paisley.
okay.
There is a Taliant in my court of men he will fight five. Go bring them out to the greenwood. Siwa will gain the prize.
Mm.
Lords and ladies flocked all. They flocked all amain. They flocked all to the greenwood to see poor Johnny slain. This Taliant he could find no way to be poor Johnny's dead, but like unto a swallow swift he jumped over Johnny's head. We've got the fight here. This is pretty good. But Johnny was a clever man, cunning and crafty withal, and up on the top of his broadsword he made this Taliant fall.
Yeah,
That's two verses
some
of the
action.
fight.
Got some
Some action.
action.
There we
Yep.
go. There's another Motherwell one, manuscript one where Macnaughton's unto England gone, the king's banner to bear. I don't know where Macnaughton comes into it. He's still Johnny though. The rest of the song is Johnny. Um,
Yeah, there are a few in Bronson's here. There's a few that which one is the very first version of Johnny Scott. It says, I have a Talion in my court, will surely kill Lords three, for betwixt his eyebrows are two spans, and his shoulders are else three. And they repeat that last line. Then there's a bit about the fight again. When they go out on a field to fight, 'twas a dreadful sight to see, for betwixt his eyebrows were two spans, and his shoulders were else three. They fell to work like two madmen. There was blood came trickling down. The Italian, so the Italian has then changed to Italian, found no other way for to take young Johnny's life. Like a swallow, swift and supple, he in Johnny's hair flew, Johnny being a cunning lad, well trained in war was he, and on the point of his broadsword, the Italian heeded thee. So,
Oh yeah. Oh, is that? Sorry, did you just say that's the first tune in Bronson?
yeah,
Yeah, because
number one.
that's right. Because we'd come across that one because it may be collected in Canada, but it's someone who'd learned it from his great grandfather who was Scottish, and so
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
this is the thing with folk song research. You can't just take anything on face value. You have to look past it and see what happened to it previously.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, and I just
Yeah.
and then I found something quite about the battle in version E in Child got here, which is another. Oh, it's that same Motherwell manuscript. Oh, it's just a champion in this one rather than Italian,
Ah,
which probably makes more sense in a sort of in
yeah.
within the realm of, if you want to call this realism and the logistically, it's probably the fact that he's a
Hmm.
champion.
Hmm.
Although in the previous verse, they appear to have named Johnny's son Germany. Oh, Johnny
Okay.
had a bonny little boy. His name was Germany. Before that, we be all hanged, my sovereign. We'll fight you till we die.
Okay.
For there is a champion in my court shall fight you 3 by 3. Next morning, about 8 o'clock, the king and his merry men, the queen and all her maidens fair, came whistling down the green to see the cruel fight begin and see poor Johnny slain. So they're all thoroughly expecting Johnny to die.
They are.
They fought on, and Johnny fought on with swords of tempered steel. That's quite good. Tempered, you don't get that very often. Until
Oh.
the drops of red blood ran prinkling down the field. They fought on, and Johnny fought on. They fought so manfully, they left not a man alive in all the king's court, not a man only but three. This fight seems to have extended to everyone else in the king's court.
Grown air, arms and legs.
Yeah. Anyway, sort of, yes, I was just actually scanning to see if any other versions mentioned the cold armor
Mm.
bit, but I'm not sure they do. Many versions in Motherwell. Let's see what Kinloch's manuscript has to say. Anything? It's an Italian. Oh, this is the problem when there's so many versions and it's just staring at reams and reams of text.
Yeah, there's not many in this version of Bronson's that actually were even the Jeannie speaks, whereas in our version she does.
Yeah.
It's more um a narrator or Johnny speaking. It's Taliant again. Yeah, no, so there were a few versions that just had the word Taliant.
Yeah, that. I mean, I wonder if that could just be, yeah. Uh, I don't know, the way Scottish people said Italian in the
Maybe, could be,
in the 1800s.
it absolutely could be. Um, yeah, and various different spellings as well.
But then I guess the different spellings are down to the collectors rather than the singers
Mm. Hmm.
and what
Hmm.
they think they heard.
Hmm.
If it was only one mention of Taliant across all the different versions we've got evidence of,
Yeah.
you might chalk that up to the person who collected it mishearing. But since
Yes.
it turns up a fair bit,
Actually, I think so that's why we must have left it in. We must have
maybe
yeah.
because it all turns up in lots of people's versions,
Yeah.
therefore it's.
Hmm.
But yeah, lots of a good few American versions. Johnny Scott met with King Henry's oldest daughter in
Right.
the version.
Different king.
Although, uh, yeah, it's I, maybe I need to read up on the way things are written out in Bronson. This is from the Sharp manuscript. Also in Sharp and Carpley's 1932, I think so. It says King Henry's oldest daughter, but then
Hmm.
in the 1932 printing of that, they've changed it to only daughter. So which one is correct
Which, yeah,
or
yeah,
previous? I don't quite know.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, and in that one, that's Johnny Scott. He just kills King Henry and all his lifeguards. This obviously doesn't mean swimming;
No.
it just means his guards. But the
Yeah,
lifeguards, they're guarding his life. And
yeah.
that's natural, but we don't mean lifeguard like that anymore.
No.
So he's killed King Henry and his guards rather than rather than King
than
Henry,
anybody else. Yeah.
sort of what's the
And
word?
got his love at last, and that's the end. Yeah.
Yeah, rather than King Henry, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Delegating
Uh-huh.
to, to,
Uh-huh.
to his Italian champion
Yeah.
gladiator Taliant
Yes. Dog.
dog dog. Oh, I was just noticing that one. Yeah, so killed old King Henry, all his lifeguards, but earlier in the up and spoke his oldest brother, Henry. Here's me and 500 of my lifeguards. So
Oh,
there's
well, there.
500. He's killed King Henry and 501 lifeguards.
Fantastic.
He's a very good fighter, is Johnny Scott
Yeah.
in that version.
Yeah.
That's a Kentucky version, 1917. There you go.
Yeah. And in that verse, actually, it's interesting because we've been referring about Johnny Scott saying, "My stockings are the heavy iron." But in that last version where he kills the lifeguards, in verse 9, he says, the daughter says,
Oh yeah,
I can't come down, I can't come down, I can't come unto you. My stockings, once they was of silk, my shoe buckles of gold, but now my feet's in some hard iron band, or lore my feet, they're cold. So that's, something that it's more that she is talking about the way they're holding her against her will.
yeah.
Um,
Because yeah, they've stripped then my stockings once they were of silk and
yeah,
my shoes because she hasn't got them anymore. They've
yeah,
stripped her of the niceties
yeah.
of her nice clothing anyway.
Of her position as the king's daughter because she's got pregnant. So to
Yes,
Johnny.
indeed. And now my
So
feet's
yeah,
in some hard iron band, so
yeah,
in chains basically in
yeah, yeah,
foot manacles.
yeah. So it's kind of a mash. It's sort of the mashup of talking about armor, but actually, I think it's maybe that she is being held.
It's the symbolism
In the
of her being stripped of that sort of
Yeah,
title of king's daughter and
yeah.
whereas so sometimes it's about his armor and sometimes it's about that which is
Mm. Mm.
I love that it did turn up somewhere else on the in a previous podcast episode but the idea of one set of words being having a completely different meaning depending on who's saying it and in what context but
Hmm. Hmm.
effectively it's the same kind of
Hmm.
verse
Hmm. Yeah,
which is that's fascinating but I'm not
yeah.
sure we can say much about it but it's fascinating.
Mm.
And so, what melody did you use? Was there one that came with the McMath?
Yeah, it's the McMath melody that's in there. Um,
So
although
was that a melody that was it Jean Hanne had or was that?
Yeah, but she must have sang it. Yeah, yeah. Learned from Jean Haney and
Oh,
Newton
there we go.
Stewart.
I wasn't sure
Yeah.
whether because with McMath collected melodies as well. Some collectors didn't. So
So yeah, it's in. I mean, I think our version on the recording is a little bit more. It's the same. It's the same tune. Just maybe the timing, the scanning of the words. This is quite a straight bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Yeah, it's pretty close to what I sing.
okay, that's very reminiscent of a tune that has turned up quite a lot in some Scott songs. Some people sing a version of Earl Richard. Da 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 ya, da 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 that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of melody that sort of swoops down and then up, but lands
Yeah,
not on the top, not on the
yeah,
root of
it
the
doesn't
key.
doesn't resolve. Yeah,
Resolve seems to turn
yeah.
up quite a lot because
Mm.
that's turned up there, and it's almost some of the tunes for Willie of Winsbury, which is next week's episode, and
Mm-hmm.
other things. So yeah, that melody seems to have travelled a lot,
Yeah, I
and
quite like it. It's maybe that's why it's traveled so because it's quite a nice melody, that one.
yeah, it does a lot of it's a major key and it does a lot of
Hmm.
certainly if there's a B part to it then there's a bit that soars up quite high but it all ends on this unresolved thing which is very nice
Yeah.
and yeah,
Hmm.
fab. And so that ended up on the album McMath the Silent Page,
Yes.
over 10 years old now, which is why you
Hmm.
can't find it anywhere. I was
Hmm. You
desperately trying
can
to
buy it.
find
You can buy it from my record label website.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Whitefall Records, we stock it. So
Ex
get it there.
excellent. Excellent. Good.
I can send you one though.
Oh, thanks. Good to know because yes, I'm a keen, not really for things that are released these days because I still want to give money to people who make this stuff because I'm in the same boat as everyone else. But
Hmm.
couldn't help but look it up on Discogs, and there is I think one second-hand version of Discogs being sold in the Netherlands
Oh gosh.
for
Okay. No.
about €11.
Wow.
So won't be buying that one. But yeah, I'll.
No.
But yeah, good.
Stocked
So,
by Whitefall Records.
but it's good to know that this album is still available to buy. Sometimes with these sort of one-off project albums, they tend
Hmm.
to be available to buy from the gigs on the
Yeah.
initial tours, and then they sort of fall out of circulation a bit. But
Yeah.
it's good to know this one's still available.
Just, I mean, when it's gone, it'll be gone
I was about
because
to
we just
say it's available until you run out of stock.
until we run out, and then it won't be available anymore because it was like. But it's a lovely album, actually. It is a really nice album. All the songs, I really like that record. So, yeah,
Right, and yeah, I noticed you said that the three songs that you sang on, Johnny Scott, Hindhorn, and was it the
Queen
one?
of the Fairies.
Queen of the Fairies. So yeah, we've now on the podcast we've now covered all three of the songs that you sang on it.
Ah,
Because
wow.
yeah, Hindhorn was Round 28, so that was towards the end of season 3,
Hmm.
and Queen of the Fairies is Tam Lin, and that's Round
Hmm.
35, so middle of
Yep.
season 4.
Okay.
But there's also, I mean, we've also covered from that album the Corby and the Crow, because that's the Twa Corbys, the two
Hmm.
Ravens, etc. That
Hmm.
was in the middle of
Hmm.
season 1. Lord Ronald, which is Lord Randall, that's Round
Hmm.
10. We did that in season 1. Round 16, Lincoln, the Frog and the Mouse. We did that in season 2. That in season 2. But yeah, so there's some songs we've already covered.
Yeah, there'd be some good reference points because, as I say, some of the McMath versions were quite unusual or quite rare versions. So it'd be quite interesting for your listeners to check them out, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And even a couple of songs coming up in the not too distant future as well. So we'll maybe this will be brought up again. But yeah, some recommended listening for this. As always, in the first half of the episode, we recommend the however many field recordings there are, traditional recordings, of which there's one for this one, which is that Irish one, Mary Balin, which is on the now out of print cassette, but there was a CD reissue, the Early Ballads in Ireland, 1968 to 1985. And if people are listening to this podcast at this very moment, you will have heard a clip already of Mary Balin in the mid-episode break. Steve Roud very kindly sent me the recording of Mary Balin's track, so
Mm.
heard that. But following on from that, including yourself, as far as we can tell, there's possibly only 3 performances of this on the folk revival. It's not that commonly found a song. So,
No.
and you're probably the most recent, 2015.
Yeah, yeah.
But we've
I
got
know, and it's strange, isn't it? How it's not one of those standards that you come across and you can find rakes and rakes of recordings. But as I
yeah,
say, yeah, I think our tune is a nice tune. The only other version I've had to listen to is the Sean Corcoran version, which is
yeah,
again I think it's quite a nice version too. I like his
that's right.
singing.
And he learned that from Mary Balin.
Hmm.
That was given to him by Mary Balin.
Right.
So yeah, the Sean Corcoran version is on a 1977 LP on the Green Linnet label called "Sailing into Walpole's Marsh." It's a selection of songs and tunes, and I did have a copy, and I stupidly gave it to a friend as a present and said, "Here you are, have this one." And I realised I need it now, but
So,
I made a copy before I gave it to him, so I've got it.
oh,
And then the other one is Susan McEwen. I'm not sure if that's pronounced the surname. McEwen did a CD in 2007 called "Sweet Liberty,"
okay.
and on there is Johnny Scott, and she learnt it from the singing of Sean Corcoran.
Oh, okay.
And so we've got the
Yeah.
Mary Balin line of this song is well documented, and then
Yeah.
and then just you flying the flag for the McMath the collection.
Yeah. Well,
Very
maybe some folks might get the McMath record and learn it from there. That'd be nice.
absolutely. That'd be good. So yeah, that's all we've got to recommend. I'll put links to where we can find all those in the show notes. But yeah, I think we'll leave things there. This has been absolutely fantastic, and yeah, it's great to meet you. And
You.
hopefully we'll do some more at some point. Maybe with a song that you are
More familiar with.
have sung more recently than like 11 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's good. You know where I am now.
I do, yes, but sometimes that's nice. I didn't just want this podcast to be, the singer is someone who sings it on the album that's coming out. I don't want
Yeah,
this podcast to be an advert for everyone's new releases.
yeah.
And
No,
sometimes it's nice. Well, I think it's nice. The singer might not, but sometimes it's nice to force someone to think about a song they haven't sung for 20 years,
yeah, no,
or
I,
10
I
years.
agree. No, I think it is lovely, and it's also, to get songs that haven't had a light shone on them for a long time as well to recall them,
Mm,
and as a singer, you forget just how much you've done as well.
yeah, yeah,
So it's great to revisit.
absolutely. So, yeah, and we'll leave things there. So, until the next time, Emily Smith, thank you very much.
Thank you. Johnny Scott's a hunting game to England's would say wild, until the king's ain doctor dear she gan stay him wi' child. If she be with bairn, her mother says, as I true will she be. Will pet her in a dark dungeon, hunger her till she dee. The king he wrote a long letter and sealed it with his hand, and sent it to young Johnny Scott to speak at his command. When Johnny read the letter lang, the tear blinted his e'e. I must a what a old England King Edward writes for me. It's up and spoke his old father, and a blithe old man was he. I'll send 500 o' my brisk young men to bear Johnny company. And when he came to Newcastle, he reined his horse about. What did he see but his ain Jeanie at a window looking out? Come hame, oh Jeanie, he cried, come hame to me. I canna come hame, Johnny, she said, King Edward has bolted me. My stockings are o' the heavy iron, I feel them very cold. My breastplate's o' the beaten steel, instead o' beaten gold. Then up and spoke the king himself, and an angry man was he. The fairest flower in all my court, she gans wi' child to thee. There is a Italian in my court, this day he's killed 3. And by the morn at 10 o'clock, he'll kill thy men and thee. Johnny took his sword in hand and he walked across the plain. There's many a weeping lady there to see young Johnny slain. But Johnny was a valiant man, well taught in war was he. And on the point o' his broadsword, the Italian sticketh he. A priest, Johnny he cried, to wed my bride and me. A clerk, her father said, to tell her to her away. I'm wanting none of your gold, he said, as little o' your gear. Just give me my own true love, I think I've won her dear.
That was Emily Smith singing Johnny Scott. And that brings us to the end of this episode. What did you think? What are your thoughts on this song? I'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to get in touch, feel free to drop me an email at intheroud@singyonder.co.uk. That's intheroud@singyonder.co.uk. Or you can visit the podcast on various social media platforms. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/intheroudpod. Our Instagram handle is at intheroudpod, and our Blue Sky handle is at intheroud. No pod. If you are enjoying the podcast, I would really, 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 really appreciate it if you would give us a little rating and review on wherever you get your podcasts from. That really helps to reach the wider audience. In the Roud is a media partner of Veteran, the traditional music label. Although this week's song does not currently feature on any of their releases, you can find details of their extensive catalogue on their website, veteran.co.uk. That's veteran.co.uk. One last huge thanks to this week's guests, Sheena Wellington and Emily Smith. Join me next week for episode 4 of this season. We will be looking at Round 64, which is Child Ballad 100. That's the song called Willie of Winsbury. Sheena Wellington will be joining me again on the history side, and for my singer guest, it's a return appearance from someone we had back in season 3 when we covered Round 26, The Cruel Brother. It's Sophie Crawford. Until then, that's it from me. Stay safe, be well, and I'll see you next time in the Roud.